outside the house, and it is a house that I no longer own.
Oh, wow.
So I'm kind of like not in control of anything like that if something should go wrong.
Now, I'm looking at the chat stream. And at 6 p.m., I said, give me 5 minutes.
Uh-huh.
6:08, I'm getting harassed. Jeez.
It doesn't take long, man.
Wow.
Look, Matt and I have to answer to some pretty badass bosses.
Yeah. They have a lot of stuff for us to do.
Okay.
I get it. I was just going to say, I feel like I'm talking to my wife right now, being harassed for 3 minutes.
It's going to get worse every time you're late.
Now it's quarter after somehow.
Yeah. Amazingly. See that? 15 minutes. That's a quarter of an hour, sir. All right, let's do a show. Let's do a stupid show. Get here on time next time, would you? All right, here we go.
Welcome to Wood Talk, for woodworkers by woodworkers. Now here are three guys who put the fine in fine woodworking. Mark, Matt, and Shannon.
All right, it's Wood Talk number 329 for October 17th, 2016. On today's show, we're talking about tricky double-sided tape, buying your first backsaw, and router tables. Now, today's show is sponsored by Brusso Hardware. Brusso provides high-quality American-made woodworking hardware for furniture, cabinets, boxes, and more. Wood Talk listeners can use coupon code WOODTALK for 10% off your first order at Brusso.com, and I highly recommend you do that because they make great stuff. We'd also like to thank some individuals who helped us out with donations over at Patreon. These are all pledges. They haven't been charged yet, but we're giving them the benefit of the doubt by announcing their names now. Carl Luff, Jean-Alexandre Vicote, Colin Smith, Keith Johnson, Nathan Stein, Bob Breck, Wilson, just Wilson, Chris Wigness, Tony, Warren Hine, Michael Geelan, Matt Parker, and Peter Middleton. Thank you so much for helping us out. Now, those people went to patreon.com/woodtalk, and they saw, you can look in the side column there, it's got different ways that you could pledge and different amounts that you could pledge, and the things that you get for those pledges. And thanks to everybody's support so far, we've accomplished 3 or 4 different goals that we had set, delivering more content, taking away ads that might get annoying. So a lot of benefits come from this program. And we actually had to add a new goal because we ran out of goals. So the most recent goal, we're just making crap up at this point.
Overachievers.
Next time, Matt will try a new hair gel. He's gonna, we could just do like crazy things like that. But we actually
might actually hit those goals. Those are ones that people really sign up for.
Yes, exactly. But we put one on there that is, it really means a lot of work for us, but it's something that we think is a really cool idea, but the dollar amount had to go high just because of the workload that would be involved. And we're just basically calling it Wood Talk Video. And the idea would be to kind of take concepts and things that we covered that month on Wood Talk that might lend themselves a little bit better to the video format. And we would each make a video. So basically we're thinking like 3 videos a month where we go and explain those things and use video and props and things like we normally do. What kind of our bread and butter is video. So we think it would be a great accompaniment to what we do with the audio and be a great way to kind of spruce up that YouTube channel, actually make use of it for something other than just these live feeds. So that's something that could be very cool, and you can help us out over at patreon.com/woodtalk. And let's see. I think that's really about it. I think we can go into what's on the bench now.
I want to know if the new Patreon Bob Breck is the same Bob Breck who's the weatherman in New Orleans.
Most likely.
Because he used to be my college roommate's father. And if it is, I want to say thanks, Bob, for getting us into that exclusive party in Mardi Gras in 1996. I still remember that well.
Sounds like a good time. Did you earn some beads when you were in Mardi Gras?
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Showed my boobs.
Nice. I'd pay money
Harry
for that.
Connick Jr. though, that was pretty cool. That was a cool event.
Sounds like a good time.
So thanks, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
Appreciate that.
All right, so what's on the bench? Well, I'll tell you what's really weird is officially woodworking in this shop knowing that it's someone else's property. It's a very odd feeling. Like, I'm used to obviously working in here, but having my family right there and knowing that my family's in the house, I mean, at this point, they're still only 5 minutes away, but I feel like I'm like in this island of my little woodworking world, and someone else has invaded like the area around my island, and the new homeowners are here, and I've got this, basically it's down to about a week now that's left for me to finish everything up and get out of here. Are you kidding me? My compressor just turned on. Should I go turn it off or just let it go? I'll just let it go for a second. It's time for a drink.
So the new people have like started moving in, or they're there now?
They're in. The pods are sitting in the.
Come out and talk to you, or
Yeah, I've talked to them. Well, the thing is, we have to collaborate on some things here because the internet I'm still paying for, and the modem and the router is actually in the house. So I've got to kind of keep tabs on what's going on there. But so they're very nice people. It's very cool, very good situation. But it just feels weird. It feels weird to be in here. It's a woodwork in here, and I'm working super early in the morning and late at night trying to get this clock done. And it's just odd. It's like it's someone else's property. I can't just go inside and get a glass of water, Well, you'd think that would stop by now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you would think it would.
Needs a lot of air.
It's a big tank. I mean, there it is. Don't hurt yourself over there. All right. So there's that. And
come on, Air Force. How's your cue, Air Force?
Yeah, seriously. That's funny. That actually happens a couple times a day because I've got a leak in there. So I should probably take care of that. But you know what? Because of all this going on, I am trying to finish this clock, and it's crazy. Like I've never had this much of a time crunch because there's always like, even if I don't hit a goal, like, all right, I'll push it off a little bit, or I'll be able to figure something out. There's always more time that I can create. This is a situation that, like, if this clock isn't done, I can't just push, like, move things around and make excuses. Like, it either is done, or I say, sorry, guys, I'll finish it in a few months when I'm in Colorado and it's not freezing in my garage. Well, more than a few months in that case. So I've got no choice. This thing has to be done. So it's a breakneck pace, and I'm doing my best to like not be too tired, not be too frustrated, and do all those things that tend to lead to injuries and stuff like that we hear about. So, but it is definitely becoming a very stressful thing. So I'll be glad when it's done. The other thing is Hinges. We talked about our sponsor of the show, Brew. So I do have some beautiful hinges of theirs, but I don't think I want that really bright brass look. Right? I showed you guys pictures of those hinges, and I'll talk about them a little bit more. But I'm actually going to try to antique them a little bit. And I have other hinges. I'm not doing the actual hinges yet. I've got some other brass hinges that I'm testing out. And I looked it up, and there's a ton of different ways that you can cause the sort of antiquing patina to happen to the brass. And what I happen to have in the shop was ammonia. So I saw that some people use ammonia and salt to do it. So I had ammonia, and I'm like, I don't have any salt. And Nicole was supposed to bring some. She forgot. So I'm saltless. And then I see the bag of pretzels sitting over here. My big Snyder's sourdough hard pretzels. So there was one left. So I ate it. And then I went into the bottom of the bag and grabbed a few handfuls of all of that salt that ends up in the bottom of the bag. And I just threw that into this little Tupperware thing with the ammonia and some paper towels. So I don't know if it's going to work. There's pretzel crumbs in there too, which is great. So I'll let you know how the pretzel...
brought to you by Hanover.
I'll let you know how the pretzel salt ammonia reaction goes on these things. But I'm pretty excited about it. So yeah, it's good stuff. Oh, and last thing is, with this clock, the movement and the lining up of the chimes and getting all that stuff to play well together is exactly as painstakingly difficult as I thought it would be. Like, you look at it and it's one of those head scratchers where I almost don't even know where to begin, but we just kind of went for it, and Brian Benham is helping me with the plans, and we did the best we could to estimate where things should go. But version 2 of the plans is going to have a lot of corrections over version 1. Just by getting in it and getting my hands in it, some things just were not going to line up properly. So getting those things to line up was absolutely a chore. But once you know the numbers, it's fine. It's just, being the person who has to create those numbers and make them something that other people can reproduce. That's the tricky part.
Better be good.
Yeah, it better be good.
Well, what's the worst that can happen? So it doesn't tell accurate time. It looks pretty.
Right. Well, it could.
That's what people have smartphones for. Nobody actually looks at a clock anymore.
But in this case, though, you've got not just timekeeping, but you've got a chime that has to sound right. And if the hammers aren't hitting just right in the right spot, it could be just all wonky sounding. So we'll see what happens. But it was a cool experience, though. So that's it for me. A lot going on. I'm tired. What are you doing, Matt?
Tired. You look pretty tired.
I am. I'm super tired. I'm not shaving. I'm not washing. I'm not taking care of my kids.
Because that's an indication.
That's true. This is just a regular Monday for me. It's all good. So what do you got going on, Matt?
Oh, this past week I was painting my sawmill. I pulled the carriage off the mill and slapped some paint on the track, and it looks pretty good. I've had a
Nice.
lot of people telling me I better hurry up and paint that thing. And this is the best performing sawmill video yet. I didn't really do any work on the actual mill. I just painted it,
Nice.
and it's performed better than the other ones.
What kind of paint did you use?
I used POR 15. It stands for paint over rust.
Ah.
So the whole idea with that paint is actually it chemically bonds to rust. So the actual prep work for new metal is much more involved than if it was just a big rusty pile of metal.
No kidding.
So that's kind of why I was letting it rust and leaving it out there to patina
Mm-hmm.
and kind of age a little bit, because I knew that was the paint I was going to use. So I figured, why make more work for myself?
Yeah, you should have tried some pretzel salt. I hear it works really well.
That probably worked fantastically.
But it wouldn't have been better. And the
delicious.
bonus is you get pretzels.
That's true. You got to eat pretzels to get the salt. So
I'm hungry for pretzels. Way to go, guys.
Yeah.
Way to go.
we do this every show. I think somebody mentions something about food.
Let's get some snacks going. The Wood Talk snacks.
Right. Very nice.
The other thing going on this week is Triton is here. They're doing some videos and a little bit of photo shoot action.
Wow.
They're here through Thursday, and then April Wilkerson's coming up tomorrow. We're going to do some stuff together as well.
I heard
It's gonna be
about
a
that.
Fun, busy week. Yeah.
I was listening to the woodworking podcast, and
You listen to podcasts?
sometimes, when I'm
There's
when I'm
other podcasts?
when I'm pooping. Yeah, actually,
For a long time.
I've been working so much with the headphones on, just trying to get this project done, that it's been podcasts and audiobooks. I listened to like 3 different audio or novels on Audible, which was awesome. But yeah, I heard her mention that. So what's this like? Because you're both sponsored by Triton, so they're kind of bringing you guys together. They're footing the bill for this.
Yep.
And you guys are gonna like do a project together, or just stand around and look at orange tools. Or-
That's what I did today. They did a photo shoot today and an interview. So that's pretty much what I did. Was I grabbed the slab up back from behind the shed, some junk slab, and I was hitting it with one of their power planers and their belt sander and their track saw, just looking cool, looking tough with the tools.
looking like a badass.
Yeah, badassing it up.
Nice.
And when April's here, we're gonna do a lumber making video, or talking about trees and how figure grows in trees and how you can cut logs up different ways, stuff like that.
Nice. No singing duets or anything like that?
Well, if you have a recommendation for one, I'm sure she'd be up for it.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll have to see what she's what her favorite music is. So how is she going to be there on a Monday?
No, tomorrow through Friday, I think she's in town.
Oh, okay. All right. I was going to say, because I know we wanted to get her on the show, and how cool would it be if she was there on location, just get another mic or something, but never mind. That's not going to work
Shoot
out.
next week's episode tomorrow.
There you go. We barely got this one done, dude. Are you kidding me? Shannon almost didn't make it. 15 minutes late. Speaking of Shannon, what's going on, man?
Oh, working a full-time job.
I don't want to hear this
Full-time
excuse.
Business,
That's
running another business, running a business within a business.
That's
New
just
Hardwood to go. and
BS. I don't want to hear that crap.
Director of marketing and the entire marketing department for a world's oldest lumber company. And oh yeah, my own business. Yeah, shut up.
So what's going on, Shannon?
Deal.
It was a rough weekend. I had lots and lots of plans to do certain things, and I want to say I spent probably 6 hours in the shop this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, which was much less than I wanted to. But the worst part is of those 6 hours, I want to say probably 30 minutes of just good work got done. The rest of it was just stupid crap, like getting in the way, and literally in some instances things in the way that had to be moved, which led to 20 minutes of shuffling things around and moving things around, and then a battery goes dead, and then I had a cord give out on me, an AC adapter cord just give up. And it was just one thing after another. And then so I'm working on bandings. That's what I was meaning to work on was inlay bandings. And I got it's one of those things where you kind of, it's a multi-step thing where you lay up several side by side, kind of like cutting boards. You lay them up side by side, and then you slice out pieces and flip them to create a checkerboard. So I was slicing out the pieces, and I created this little kind of dedicated bench hook that has a stop in it so that I get exactly the same width of slice coming off this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm cutting those out, and I go, oh, you know what would be useful here is if I could lift this whole thing up, because the little offcut pieces kept like falling into this little groove, and what I wanted to do was kind of sweep them off the back of the hook, but that wasn't really going anywhere because there was no place for them to go. So I thought, well, if I can angle it up, they'll kind of sweep down into this little bucket so that I don't lose them. Just this. Literally, it was just a little bucket that I want to keep them in.
Mm-hmm.
So I go over to my lumber rack and I pick up these. They're actually bolsters from a plywood shipment that I grabbed at the yard. They're two actually 2x4, full 2 inches thick by 4 inches wide of that like Euro multiply, like really, really high quality plywood.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just used to stack bunks of plywood on, and I grabbed a few of them to use for like glue calls and just for like setting things up on stuff, whether air drying or finishing or whatever. So I go to grab one, and one of them like catches on another one, and it comes sliding down off the rack and whacks me right in the side of the head.
Oh man.
Like in the temple, to the point where I saw stars. And it probably only shifted like 4 inches before it compacted into my head. But it was one of those things where I like took a step back in like defense, but it was too late. Needless to say, I've been checked out. I don't have a concussion or any of that stuff. But
Well, that's good.
as I stepped back to avoid it, and then it kind of hit me, there was kind of like that recoil, and then the recoil back, like ow, and then I swung back, and I whacked myself again on the side of the face.
Nicely done.
I can only imagine what this would look like on film. It was just like an idiot move after idiot move. But needless to say, I like completely tweaked my neck, so I can barely even turn to the left now. It's like great, fabulous.
Shannon,
yeah.
there's a fire behind you.
What?
Kenny's on fire.
My body around. It was just terrible. So then I was just uncomfortable and then just grumpy,
Yeah.
which just led to me getting less and less and less done, to the point where Sunday came around about 10:30 a.m. on Sunday. I'm like, beep it. I'm going in the house.
Just
Netflix.
just watch football all day.
I
Nothing
just
wrong
blew
with
it
that.
off and just went in and like put a heating pad on my neck, and just it was just frustrating because not only was there a lot of stuff that I had planned to do, there was a lot of stuff I really needed to get done in order to meet some deadlines. So yeah,
Mhm.
everything's gonna be back a week or two.
Ah,
or
well.
whatever.
Oh well,
Yeah.
that happens sometimes.
Getting old, man. Just little things like quickly looking to the left can hurt my neck. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know what you mean. The other day I got up from this exact chair, in fact, and I think I was sitting cross-legged, or like I had my foot up on my knee, and I must have been there for like an hour and just didn't realize that it was cutting off circulation. And it cut it off in such a way that I stood up and started to walk away, and my knee buckled, but like the wrong way. And I've never had that happen before, but whatever I had done to like deprive blood in my muscles, it just was definitely not able to support my weight. I was like, what the heck is this? So yeah, I mean, maybe that's not a getting old thing, but it was funny. It made me feel old. I don't often just kind of, my knees don't go the other way very often. All right, let's get into what's new. Got a couple things to share with you folks here. This one comes in from Chris. He says, just wanted to pass along an awesome video by the Samurai Carpenter. It's a video of him making a bed for his son who was diagnosed to die at birth, but survived and is now 8 years old. And I've seen the little thumbnail for this. I haven't actually watched the video yet, but knowing this guy, it's going to be pretty awesome. And I don't know about you guys, but that's one thing that happens to me as I'm getting older, and I think fatherhood had a very big role in that, is I am a big softie anymore. Like when you talk about like bad things happening to kids, and I will cry like a little baby girl. And it's amazing, and it's really been since I've had kids that's happened. And I've talked to other new dads, and they say that it affects them the same way, like stuff that they wouldn't even have flinched about before. Now, at the drop of a hat, they could start crying. So I'm going to admit that. It's okay.
I'm with you.
Okay, I was hoping you'd back me up on that.
Yeah. I was thinking whether I was going to go with it
Just be a man and not admit it.
or just leave you hanging for a bit.
You could have just left me hanging. Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
I'm gonna try to pull that tough guy act, but like I cry at Hallmark commercials, so shut up.
Hey, you guys have dogs, and dog lovers can be very much the same way. If you just all you have to do is think about something happening to your dog, and it's like it's done.
Terrible. It's terrible.
Anyway,
This next one comes from Paul. He says, "Talk about ingenuity." This guy makes a mini lathe that would give me, Shannon, nightmares. And actually, just the opposite. This is awesome.
yeah,
We've talked about videos like this before, where somebody who just has like nothing and just pure like an idea in his head just pulls this out of nowhere. And he created like a little tiny lathe with like a flywheel that it reminds me of like a 12-inch disc sander is what the flywheel looks like. It's just this little, it almost looks like a disc of sandpaper. He's run a belt to it. He created all the headstocks. I mean, there's absolutely no precision or like high tech anything in this, and I love it. The fact where like his turning tool, I think it's a hacksaw blade, and it's just so cool
awesome.
to see this little like benchtop lathe, and he's making like imagine making like shaker pegs or like chess pieces. That's basically the capacity of this. So the swing is probably like 2 inches. So it's just this really little thing, but it just like came out of his head, and just
That's awesome.
grabbed some carriage bolts and grabbed some like rubber bands and the only thing missing is duct tape. But man, it works and it looks so cool. So yeah, I really admire even the guy in the video, like grizzly dude with like the Vanderlist beard going on. It just works. So yeah. It's very cool.
you got to admire those can-do attitude people, like people who decide they're going to build their own bandsaw mills and things like that. Who are just like, here, let me just weld this thing to this thing, and bada bing, bada boom, there's my bandsaw mill.
Make it up as I go.
Yeah, that's the best. I do that, but with wood. Like I don't venture beyond the world of wood when it comes to these things, and it's just because I haven't been exposed to it much, so I wouldn't even know where to begin with those things. But there are so many people in our craft, and people, especially now with YouTube, people that we come across who are sharing what they're doing. And they amaze me all the time that they just like, it doesn't matter, like that they don't know 100% exactly what they're doing. They're going to make it happen even if they learn along the way. It's just this no fear exploration thing that's pretty cool. It can be scary too, but it's pretty cool.
You're fearful. You're very fearful.
Well, and
I am.
guess.
I'm cautious anymore.
Well, it's just the opposite of, like the paralysis by analysis. There's so much information on the internet. And this is a guy that's just like, whatever. This is what I'm going to do. And actually, thank goodness that he actually like created a video of this, because it's truly original content.
Yeah. Well, do you guys feel that,
How often
I
do you
mean,
see that anymore?
this might be an aside, but do you feel like that makes you gun shy about experimentation? The fact that there are so many people out there, not just producing the content, but watching topics, so they think they know it.
It's me.
Yeah, not even that specifically. I just mean in general.
Sometimes.
I mean, because like when no one else is talking Hinge and all these methods are new to me, I know nothing about it. So the question I'm asking is, should I be hesitant to go and film this and say, here's a great way to patina your hinges when I've only done it one time? You know what I mean? Like we always admit when that's the case, but we live in a universe where before I even post that video, people are going to expect us to have researched it and watched the 20 other videos that are out there on how to get patina on brass and why didn't you do it this way or why didn't you do it that way type of thing. It just seems like it's a bit of a deterrent to experiment on your own without doing tons of hours of research before starting.
I do find myself doing more research now, especially if I'm going to do a public video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what's so funny is like the premium stuff where people are paying for it. I feel better about that because there's so many other things they get, and my students so shape what it is I do now that it seems kind of contrary. The premium stuff should have more research, but the premium stuff is more of a journey than just a one-off type video.
Thanks for paying. Here's some crap I'm going to try.
Right. Well, a good example are the bandings that I'm doing right now. I mean, I've made like 6 different ones right now, and I'm probably going to make another 6 or 7 more before I even do a video on this for that inlaid award thing I'm doing, just because I just don't have the experience in it, and I'm making mistakes left and right, which people are always like, well, we want to see the mistakes, but it's like, no, these are just stupid things.
Yeah.
Like pulling something off the shelf and getting head in the face with a piece of
I want to see that.
Now that you should definitely show.
I want to see that for sure.
I would watch it over and over and over. It would be an instant classic.
It's a GIF. It's an animated GIF.
There you go.
It's going to be my new avatar.
I know for me, like at least for a content consumer, I really enjoy like I guess the experimentation videos where someone kind of comes at this like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is where I want to go. I'm gonna try and get there. I'll take you along as we get there. And even if they don't actually get to that point, you kind of learn the mistakes that they made, so that you don't make them yourself, or so you kind of get a decent understanding of what's going on with that process and why it failed.
Yeah.
So at least for me, when someone tells me that you can't do something, that's not really helpful. I need to know why not.
Yeah.
So the failures that people can share with the world or whoever is more beneficial than just seeing how it's done, because that's just how it's done, not because why it's done that way.
Yeah, so there's definitely something to be said, charging in and just trying things, even when you don't even know what the right questions are to ask when you're doing it. But as you go through that process, it's really valuable for other people to see that perspective. That makes a lot of sense. Cool. All right. I totally took us off course there. I think you got the last one here, Matt.
I do. This is sent in by Charlie. This is in our blog post over at Tools for Working Wood. He said that this was something interesting to take a look at. It's a little article on Cbn Wheels. It's those cubic boron nitride wheels, basically diamond wheels for your grinder. I've been actually thinking about getting these at some point. Like, I go through like the phases in my life, in my woodworking life, where like I get like really into turning for a little bit, and then like I don't anymore. So every single time I get like really into turning for like a month, I was like, I should go get some of these Cbn wheels. But this is a really good little blog post about the wheels and how they're kind of beneficial over the standard, whatever they are.
Aluminum oxide.
There you go.
Yeah.
They just
I had
run
never
cooler.
heard of these before, honestly.
Oh, really?
Well, I mean, in hindsight now, I think I remember people talking about them, but it didn't really like process. You know, they said something. This isn't a wheel. I'm like, okay, so it's some new wheel, but
Right.
I never really paid attention to the, what is it, cubic boron nitrate? I think is what it actually stands for. But
basically it's a diamond wheel.
the fact that it doesn't require dressing is kind of cool
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah,
and
just
that
like-
it
just like a
absorbs
diamond
heat rather
plate.
than reflect it.
That's pretty
sweet.
awesome. Good stuff. All right, so we've got some items of kickback here, and we talked about LED lights in, I think, the last show. So we got quite a bit of feedback, opinions, people talking about what they've done with regard to LED lights. So definitely go to woodtalkshow.com and check out that post, our last show, and you will find some cool conversations going on there. But one in particular, two people wrote in. Bruce and Bon Pacific are sort of talking to one another. Bruce says, "Hey guys, good episode. Had a comment about the LED shop lights. I like the idea of LED lighting, but look at lumen output. For the money, fluorescent bulbs, T8s, are still the most light output for the money. I know people say LEDs will last 20 years or whatever, but that's the bulb, not the transformer or whatever powers them. They've not proven to last long enough for the average person to see a full savings, since they are so pricey." And Bon Pacific replied and says, "Just browsing Home Depot, a Philips 4-foot T8 fluorescent, 2950 lumen, 20,000 hours, costs $9.47 for 47 seconds. $9.47 for a 2-pack. That's $473 each. A Philips 4-foot T8 LED, 2100 lumen, 36,000 hours, costs $697. That's a little over $2 per bulb. If we take the average lifetime, according to the manufacturer, into account, the fluorescent fixture gives us 12,460,000 blah, 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 blah lumen hour per dollar. The LED gives us 10.8 million lumen hour per dollar. So fluorescents are about 13% cheaper up front for the light that you're buying, while the LEDs cost half of what the fluorescents do in electricity. Modern electric ballasts help, but fluorescent lifespan is greatly impacted by what type and brand of ballast they are used with, probably more so than the transformers and LEDs. In the end, LEDs are a lot more affordable, and he has a reference on ballast lifespan issues and a link that you could check out there. So some interesting opinions coming in on this. Some folks have recommendations for lights that are on the market today that you can just swap out for existing T8s that are in those fixtures. Lots of interesting options. So please keep adding to the conversation, because I've got this is something I'm thinking about right now, because I'm going to be doing some lighting in a new space, and I'd like to do something and not regret it. You know, I might have to research this before I make a video about it. I think there's one more comment here on LEDs. That's for you,
Yep.
Matt.
I got it. You weren't drinking, so I wasn't sure.
Hold on.
Oh, good. sound effects too. I just built a shop, and
Sounds like you're taking a hit off a bong.
I know it does. Because I don't have I have running water, but it's not cold like ice drinking water. I've got this giant thermos that my mom gave me this morning.
I was going to say, Mark's getting ready to move to Denver right now.
That's right. I'm getting prepped, baby. Don't mind me while I get high.
All right, so this one's from Chris. He says, I just built a shop and used these LED lights that are amazing. You might want to give these a look, and he gave us a link to them. Cost is super cheap from an LED perspective, and the quality of light is amazing. I put them in standard recessed lighting. Recessed fixtures, $10 a bulb is approximately the recessed fixtures are approximately $10, plus the bulb is around $10, so $20 per fixture. I have 1,000 square feet, well lit by 13 fixtures.
Interesting. See, and I never thought about recessed lighting and using floodlights in a shop.
I would love to do that just because my ceilings are so low, and like even a couple of inches. There's one spot in my shop that's actually only 7'3", and seeing as I'm 6'4", it's a problem.
Yeah, I recessed my fluorescent lights because I have the open joist bays. So the fixtures are actually recessed up into the bays, so I have a little more ceiling height where the bulbs are. So I go smacking the bulbs with a 2x4 board or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
But would you
save that for your face?
Yeah.
But what do you think about recessed floods? I mean, I just have this vision in my head that they wouldn't have the light spread that you get. I mean,
what I would worry about.
It works fine in the house, but I just would wonder if, I would love to hear more, and especially anybody who has them, let me know how they're working out for you, and if you need to have more than you might have.
You need a lot of them, wouldn't you?
That's what I'm thinking.
Have a decent spread over your shop,
right?
At least, especially for again, because we're filming, you need more.
If it looks good for filming, that means it also looks good for task lighting. So, yeah.
I mean, like I said last week, I ain't going back to a non-studio style shop.
Right. Yeah, I mean, even if you weren't filming, wouldn't you want that much light if you could have it?
Now that I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if you're doing sensitive chiseling operations and you need to see exactly where you're placing the chisel into a line, I mean, that stuff is so much easier to see if you have good lighting. So, but seriously, anyone who uses these canned recessed lights like you would inside your house, if that's working out for you, let me know. I'd be very curious to see how that's working out. Love the low profile idea. All right. So I mentioned before, what's that? What'd you say?
I said what you said.
Yeah.
I want to know too.
Me too. I mentioned before that the show today is sponsored by Brusso Hardware, and I am using Brusso's hinges on this clock project. Now, last week I had done the first half of the installation, putting them into the frame, and this week, at least the way I like to do it, is in a two-part operation. So once the frame has my hinge mortises located, then I put the door frame into the opening and I shim it so it doesn't move, so it's kind of vertically locked in place, and then I just use a knife, a very sharp knife, to transfer the marks and the locations directly to my door. So, excuse me, always when I'm doing an ad, I start burping. What's that say? It's like an allergic reaction to it.
It's a serious form of flattery, I think.
I think so too. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So I'm working on the doors, and that, again, this is one of those things that when you can just depend on everything being the size it's supposed to be, all the marks are easily transferred, and I just extend my lines, remortise on the door, and I don't even have to think about it. That installing that door and making sure when you've done it in this two-part sort of setup, and I didn't do them all at the same time, you'd think you'd be pretty nervous about okay, well, now I have the hinges in the door, let me take it back to the case and make sure that they line up. But I don't have to worry about it because it's exactly where it's supposed to be. So both my top door and the bottom door locked into the mortise perfectly. And it all comes down to using a quality hinge that you can trust, and that the one leaf is going to be the same dimension as the one on the other side of it. And you guys, remember I sent you, I actually texted Matt and Shannon when I first got these hinges because I thought they were too big. And I didn't even have the thing together yet, but I had some of my parts laid out, and I said, what do you guys think? Is the scale off here? They look large to me. Well, now that they're installed, they look perfect. And I think the thing is, again, I'm not used to building at this scale. It's a very tall clock. So it's one of those things where my brain was telling me, no, I need something with a smaller barrel on there. It just looked a little bit too large. But once installed, man, they look awesome. So now the question is what's going to work in terms of the patina action, because I do want to tone down some of that brass on there. And I guess if you're looking for a nice brass finish, these are perfect for you. But the way I want this thing to look, it's got to tone down a little bit. So let you know how that goes. Hopefully they don't mind me doing that to their hinges, like, oh great, he's promoting destroying the finish on there. But I think that's a valid thing to do to bright brass, is to age it a little bit, make it look a little bit darker, and take them up to the next level, baby. So yeah, it's really good stuff. Continually impressed with the quality at Brusso. You just can't go wrong. So check them out at Brusso.com, and remember that Wood Talk listeners can get 10% off your first order using the coupon code Wood Talk. And thanks so much, Brusso, for sponsoring this show. We really appreciate it. And thanks so much for making great hardware and setting the bar for excellence, because it's kind of what you're doing.
Thanks for being you, Brusso.
Thanks. Yeah, you do you, Brusso.
Do it upright.
Let's do some voicemail, shall we? Hey, you know what? It's another show and another voicemail from AJ. You guys remember AJ, right? AJ's a good dude, but he's the king of open-ended questions.
Great.
Here we go, guys.
Good setup.
Hey guys, this is AJ again from New England Woodworking Studio. So I have a question about teaching. So I am doing an open house at my local woodcraft school, and I'm going to be doing a demonstration on segmented wood turning. This is in Walpole, Massachusetts, and it's almost kind of like an audition for me to maybe start teaching some segmented turning classes come the new year. So I just wanted to get some advice on what you guys, I know all of you teach at Woodworking America, and you have your online stuff, and so I know this is kind of all of your fortes. So any tips, any advice, anything that you think I should know, or directions to lean towards, I'd take anything. I know it's kind of open-ended, but sorry. Thanks, guys. Love the show.
I love AJ's his method here. It's like, hey, guys, I'm going to eat dinner tonight. I'm not sure what to make. Discuss.
You guys like food?
Talk amongst yourselves.
Talk amongst yourselves. Discuss.
But, the first step is admitting you have a problem, AJ. So we appreciate you admitting that open-ended.
All right, so he's teaching, and and he said it's cool. a woodcraft, right?
Yep, I think so.
Okay, so I'm just trying to think, because I've done a couple of those classes. I've taken a couple of those classes and taught some as well. So I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, because it has been a while since I've taught. What kind of advice? Just random general
I got
advice.
I got some stuff.
Yeah, it's probably fresh in your minds, so go ahead.
Yeah, well, both from WIA and certainly from teaching down, you really want to lay out an outline of what it is you're going to teach, and then probably cut that in half, because it is amazing how what you think is a very simple thing, I'll cover this in 10 minutes, will take 45 minutes. And I'm not just talking about people having questions, just making sure, because now you're talking, to multiple people and making sure everybody gets that. And then there's the time to everybody walk back to the benches and everybody come back up here. And it's amazing, what a time suck teaching in person is. So lay out your plan, cut it in half.
That's definitely good. What about you, Matt?
So if someone has a question about something where you need a visual aid, have a visual aid for that. Kind of anticipate you're going to need that. I think that's kind of one of the biggest things that people kind of they can see that you're at least prepared for it, and you have a good piece of advice for a question that they actually have something they actually have a question about, and kind of fill that need, I guess.
Yeah. My advice would be to set your expectations properly. And what I mean by that is, anytime I've taught one of these classes, I always had this vision in my head about, me sort of distributing the information and how that's going to be done. Like Shannon talked about the outline. Here's my outline. Here's what I'm going to accomplish today. And I'm even, talking about 5-day classes where you really need to budget your time every day to make sure you hit the finish line at the end. In these more shorter form classes, even then, you're sort of teaching techniques, and it sounds like a project at the same time with this segmented turning. So you're going to have in your head what you expect to accomplish. But the one thing that, a new instructor might not account for is the fact that someone will always be slow. And you will, as you're teaching, like depending on how many you have, you will find that certain people are your fast people. They're done first, and then like they're pulling you in multiple directions because the people who are done first want to keep going and they need your help. The person who is last, it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy. Like once you're last, you're going to always be last because you can't get to them until these other things are done. So just be realistic about, the fact that you're going to be jumping around and not everyone is always going to be at the same point in the project, depending on its complexity. If it's a really small project and a quick turning, you might be able to get away with it. But expect to help people and hold some people's hand a little bit more than others, and do your best to try to accommodate that, because there's nothing more frustrating than going to a class and sitting there picking your nose because 2 or 3 people are just really slow. And then you're sitting there going, all right, well, I guess I'll look at my phone. So you're trying to satisfy the needs of all these different skill levels and some people are faster than others. So I found that was one of the rude awakenings of like this master plan I had for how the thing would go. The fact that some people are just so slow that they are days behind the rest of the class, but you still are obligated to walk them through the process. And that can be super, super tricky. So just be prepared for that.
A lot of that stems from people just learning differently. Some are like, they see you do something once, or they don't even need to see you do it. They just need you to describe it, and they're there. And then there are others, and actually I find this more common. There are others that have read a lot.
Yeah.
They've hit every blog. They've read Christopher Schwarz's stuff from top to bottom, and their head is so full of great information, but man, it's so hard to like kick them into first gear.
Yeah.
And it's tough to do, especially because who am I to refute what Chris Schwarz says?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what? Not in this situation. Don't do that. And like, yeah, but Chris Schwarz says. I'm like, yeah.
Screw that
I'm
guy.
not gonna be the guy who's a Schwarz punk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I run into that a lot. Not to drop names, but I run into a lot with Paul Sellers. I mean, the man is so good at what he does, and he's been doing it for so long, and his brand is so huge that I'm constantly getting people saying, well, we should do this, and I just totally disagree. And it's not because he's right or I'm right and he's wrong, or vice versa. It's just in context, it makes more sense to do it this way. And a lot of times people they can't quite grasp that, that it might be better to do it one way or another in this particular situation.
The best thing to do with a Paul Sellers comment is to say, Peter Sellers, I had no idea he was a woodworker.
Nice.
That's what I do. The other thing I'll add is back to the concept of people falling behind. If you do have someone who just happens to be really good and they've got an aptitude for this, lean on them a little bit, because a lot of times you could recruit somebody who is ahead to help you pull everyone else forward, and if they're competent and you trust them, you could use them to help you kind of keep the train moving forward. All right, so hey, if you want to leave us a voicemail like AJ did, you can call us on Skype. Username is WoodTalkOnline, or call us at 623-242-5180. Oh, and you know what? You can use the email, woodtalkonline@gmail.com, and if you want to send us a voice memo from your phone, that's a great way to do it. The call quality for that, or the voice quality for that, is really great. So don't be afraid to email us your questions or comments. All right, let's get to our emails. The email. All right, so
email.
I got one here that's just very general for everybody that I thought would be quick and fun. Matt on Patreon asked, do you ever make projects just for yourselves, no cameras? Very quick answer for that to me is not anymore. No. Very rarely, if at all. What about you, Matt?
Ditto.
It's just, when you're in our position, you feel guilty when you don't, and it's a wasted opportunity if you don't.
Missed opportunity.
Shannon, anything you've done recently for yourself?
Absolutely not. The camera goes on for just about everything.
Yeah.
Because you're right. It's a missed opportunity otherwise. And everybody's always like, well, I wish you'd film that.
Yeah, you should have. Oh, are you going to film it? Yeah, totally.
Yeah, right.
Oh, we're having pork roll tonight.
Sweet.
Good news.
Sounds good. What time?
In about an hour. Actually, I might eat in the shop tonight, depending on how much I get done. All right,
Matt, why don't you call Triton and see if they'll fly us over to Mark's place for pork roll?
Ooh,
awesome.
They'll foot the bill. They've got money. There's
a reason for that, right?
There's plenty of Triton money to go around.
Well, we have some. We just bring some tools with us. It should be all right.
You can use the hand planer to plane off some layers of pork roll, and we could fry it up. It'll be delicious.
Man.
Telling you, good stuff. Jersey pork roll. All right, so I've got a question here from Eric. He says, I sometimes find myself cursing Mark in the shop, and it's always for the same reason. He's so good looking. No. He says, double-sided tape. Double-sided tape. I always see you use it, and you just pull the backing off like it's nothing. How does he do it? Now, despite Shannon's claim that it's because I have greasy Italian fingers, which I do, but that's not the reason. Now, here's the thing when it comes to this double-sided tape. For years, I was able to get from Rockler this stuff called Turner's tape, and that's just the way it was sold. That's how it was named, and it has worked flawlessly for me in the past, and I still am using the same roll I've had for years. It lasts a really long time, and the paper comes off very easily. It's super sticky. Sometimes it's difficult to get the pieces like pulled apart again after you use it. But since then, and I haven't bought a roll in a couple of years, I keep hearing the same complaint. And I think what's happened is I'm almost positive that they've changed either the supplier or the formulation and how they actually make it, so that the paper is extremely difficult to get off. And that's what's happening here. And people have this problem. So I think I just wanted to make sure I sort of let people know that what I'm using may not be the same stuff that you have. I think that's changed since then. So I'm going to be really kind of, annoyed if I go and place another order and find that I'm having the same problems everyone else is. Like, why change it? It worked great. But yeah, so that's the reason why. And I think not all this double stick tape is created equal. So hopefully, I don't know, I'll let you know after I make another purchase. Hopefully it'll still be the same stuff, but don't be too hard on yourself. It's definitely the product and not you. But of course, it does also help to have just a little nub of a fingernail. Like, don't trim your nails all the way back. Make sure at least one of your thumbs has a little bit of, you got a little blade there that you can use, because without that, you're not getting that tape up no matter what you do. Even the stuff I have, you need a fingernail for. So that's that.
Sharpen that on a Cbn wheel.
Yes, at least it won't heat up. That's the good thing.
So I use carpet tape, and I use a marking knife to pull the backing off.
Yeah, carpet tape is one of those examples of the ones that the backing does not come off. You have to use a knife to get it off.
See, that's the thing. If I have to use a knife, that's a problem to me. I want to be able to use my fingernail to do it. But I guess, maybe we'll all have to use
nails or something.
Yeah, I guess so. They're not that bad. Right.
Halloween.
Yeah, Halloween is coming.
Feeling a little goofy tonight.
Sharpen your nails.
Not bad. Oh, man. This next one here is from Ted. It says, hey, guys, can you talk a bit about your router table setups? Sure, let's hear about your router planes, Shannon. I think we all have router planes.
Yeah.
Likes and dislikes. Is a router table with all the bells and whistles worth it? Can I get away with a blue table, I guess it's the brand, for $500, when everything else is $1,000 to $1,500? He's building traditional furniture for what it's worth.
Is he talking about Craig as blue?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, I could plan to add the little T-tracks to the back, so you could have the fence slide forward and have little lock knobs on top to lock it down. Never that. Don't miss it. Didn't need it, I guess. So I definitely lean towards the no frills and don't worry about it kind of thing. The one thing I did do, because I made it myself, is I made the tabletop really big. It's I think it's 28 or almost 30 inches deep and 42 inches wide. That way, if I'm doing a pattern routing, I have a ton of workpiece support for bigger stuff. Because most of the time, those router tables you buy, they feel a little small to me. The top does, at least.
Yeah.
But when you're making it yourself, you can make whatever size you want, and throw a nice lift in there, and you're good to go. I don't know.
I'm trying to remember whose shop I was in. And this is years ago now, but it was the same type of thing where they had like 36 by 50 router table, and the thing was just awesome. There was just so much real estate to just move things around, and that looked pretty cool.
The downside is it's so much real estate to put crap on.
Yeah.
Set stuff on. Now using the router table becomes even more difficult because you can clean 80 pounds of parts off of it.
Exactly what happened to me.
A couple of things I'd recommend to look at, just things that have bugged me about router tables, and I don't mind buying them, but he's right. There's a big price variation from one to the next, and especially when you get into the lifts, there's a lot of difference, and there is quality difference between them as well. Look at a couple of things. Number one, the support system for the tabletop, because if you're not careful, it winds up sagging over time if there's not enough support. I've got a Jessam setup that over time it did sag, but they made these support bars that you could actually screw to the bottom that help keep it nice and stiff. So if you are building your own, consider that as well. Maybe just get some, some steel tubing or something, and use that to reinforce it so that over time, if you've got a big 3 horsepower router in a big heavy lift, it's just going to happen. Like almost anything you make that top out of, short of like a cast iron top, is going to sag over time. And if it sags, then suddenly that router table is a whole lot less useful to you if you're doing long runs and work pieces all the way across. That's a huge pain in the butt. So make sure you get something that isn't likely to sag. Look at the inserts. That's one thing that can vary quite a bit from brand to brand, is whether the insert is made out of like a phenolic plastic material or is it metal, and how flush does it sit with the surface. If it's metal, the thing better sit flush, because otherwise if you run, even if it's just a little bit off and you're running a workpiece across there and you get that snag, that's horrible. That sucks. If it's a phenolic material and it sticks up, you can actually take a blade to it. I actually have like an old Stanley block plane that if I put one of these little insert rings into the router table and I feel it sitting above the surface, I'll actually take that block plane and just very carefully give it a few passes and try to flush that thing to the surface. So that's one of the advantages of a phenolic material. Also, you could very easily increase the hole size if you need to, and you usually get spares that have no holes in them, and that you could use those for custom bit sizes. So that's why I kind of prefer that phenolic. But those are two things I would suggest looking at before you make your purchase.
I would back up Matt, because I can remember,
of course you
went
would.
Like
You
all
suck.
bells and whistles and stuff at first.
Yeah.
And myself, and my biggest issue was the dust collection, because I was really like OCD about all the dust.
And I guess ultimately it kind of depends on how much you're going to use it for. Like if you're start to do a lot of joinery with it, you're going to want attachments on your fence for things like stop blocks. If you're doing stopped grooves on there, if you could have a stop block on each side for the start and the stop of the cut, that's really helpful. And yes, you could just clamp something to it, but for instance, Jessam has,
Which is what Matt does.
yes, that's fine. That's fine, Matt.
I just ran a clamp across. I'm trying to think of.
Don't feel bad about it. But, just one of the bells and whistles sort of things that I really like is if you've got that T-track and you've got a stop that you could just kind of slide in, tighten a little nut, and it's there and done. And that's always the stop that you use. That's really convenient. But again, you have to use it a lot. You have to need it a lot for that particular type of bell and whistle thing to make any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd probably lose it. I'd probably take off the fence and lose the stupid thing.
Put it in the stand. It's not that hard, Matt. And your shop's small. How do you lose anything? It's all within arm's reach.
Underneath things.
Oh, you know what? I have a piece of advice I just remembered. I remember when I created my router table, it was like, well, I'm going to have this drawer over here for bit storage, and I had all these different bit storage drawers. Mm-hmm. And there is really no way when you have a cabinet and a router table to create a completely dust-proof case.
Right.
So I always remember, I had dust extraction and everything in the main part, and I'd open the drawer with the router bits in it, and they'd just be filled with dust. It's like all that hydroscopic dust just sitting in there coating all of my nice ferrous surfaces.
Yeah, it's a losing battle.
Never good. So build a separate router bit storage and hang it on the wall. Don't waste cabinet space in your router with all the little bit drawers.
Well, not to mention router bits are one of those things that, at least for me, the collection never gets any smaller. It only gets bigger, and I only add more stuff to it. So it'd be nice to have separate storage.
What collections get smaller in life? Isn't the opposite of collecting?
Money collections, maybe. that tends to get smaller for me. All right.
All right, we beat that horse dead. Let's move on to Matt's question. Matt says, I'm new to woodworking and starting to amass some tools. He's collecting them.
Oh, he's collecting more.
I'm looking to buy a back saw that I can use to cut a variety of joints, dovetails, tenons, etc. And I'm thinking a Veritas carcass saw will let me do most things. But I'm not sure if I should get crosscut or rip. Is there a major difference for what I want to do with the saw, or is the difference more of a luxury? If you could buy one, which one you buy? All right. I could get really pedantic and say, well, because it's a carcass saw, it should be filed crosscut, but Veritas is making things very difficult and confusing by offering both rip and crosscut on saws like a carcass saw, which by its very definition is a crosscut file, but that's okay. Mm-hmm. I just said I wasn't going to get pedantic, didn't I?
Yes.
It's my job. It's my job on this show to be elitist and pedantic sometimes. Yes, buy yourself a carcass saw. I've said this in videos on the Renaissance Woodworker. I think it's the best first back saw that you can get. It's kind of your jack saw, if you will. It's utility player that you can use in a lot of different things. As far as whether or not to get it cross-cut or rip, I don't care. No. I mean, a lot of people, a lot of purists will tell you there was really no such thing as a cross-cut filing in the 18th century. Everything was rip. Frankly, if you're talking, he mentions dovetails and tenons. Those are both rip cuts. So, why not get it rip filed? I think that the disadvantage of a rip tooth does not make that big of a difference when you're dealing with such a fine pitch like a carcass saw. A cross-cut tooth will slice a little bit more, will make more of a cleaner cut across the grain, will mean less blowout on the backside of the cut, but you can decrease all that by reducing the pitch as well, and that's kind of where the carcass saw is. You will be doing some cross-grain cuts, like sawing out the shoulders of your tenon cheeks or that 1/2 pin on the end of your dovetail board, but you're probably going to be creating like a first-class saw cut there anyway, using a knife line and maybe a chisel to outline that. So when it comes to tearing out, it's not really that big of a deal. So I think you will get a little bit more speed out of a traditional rip filed tooth than you will with a crosscut. But honestly, you put them side by side, it's going to be such a minimal difference because the pitch is already rather fine that I think you could buy one of each and you might mix them up. We play a shell game and you go, okay, here's the rip one. Boy, it's cutting great. No, sorry, that's the crosscut one. So if we did the Pepsi challenge, you might not win.
All right. When you use the word pedantic, I always think of this.
The administration's plan for peace in the Middle East is shallow and pedantic.
I agree. Shallow and pedantic.
I agree as well. Shallow and pedantic.
Good Family Guy clip.
Like grinds my gears.
Shallow and pedantic. All right, so I think that pretty much does it for the show. If you want to get into the email extra that we record every show for our $4 patrons, you can go over to patreon.com/woodtalk, and every time we publish the show, there's that little extra where we talk about something else, answer another email question. And today we're going to talk about the honeydew tasks that we tend to put off because of woodworking or shop time or other things we have keeping us busy. And that should be very interesting. So if you want to support the show, you can. Of course, I just mentioned it, patreon.com/woodtalk. You can also get a Woodtalk t-shirt at twwstore.com. And you could leave us a review in iTunes if you'd like. Just find us in the store, click on ratings and reviews, and then click that 5-star rating. And I don't feel like reading any today. Maybe next time. So Shannon.
We will accept all shallow and pedantic reviews.
Yes, shallow and pedantic. All right, Shannon, give them the contact info. We'll get out of here.
If you have comments, questions, topic suggestions, is that too loud?
Why were you yelling?
He's very excited.
There are several ways to contact us, people. Leave a voicemail on Skype. Our username is Woodtalk Online. Call our voicemail line at 623-242-5180, or use our fancy contact form at woodtalkshow.com/contact. And you can leave us a comment on our website. You can leave a comment on Facebook. Heck, you can even go to Patreon now and leave comments there. So many ways to get us.
Too many, frankly, if you ask me.
Yeah.
We need fewer. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody, and we will catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Shallow and pedantic.
All right. So that could be the name of the show, Shallow and Pedantic.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I hope you guys are okay with this email extra topic. I just grabbed it and threw it in there.
When that one came in, that's the first thing I thought of is, well, there's our extra question. I actually took one.
Quick.
I took one as well and put it into the tab that's weekend show ideas. There was one from Jack Evans, and he's asking about woodworking skills and woodworking related things and how that's spilled over into other parts of our lives. I thought that would be a good weekend show topic.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
So in addition to
I think we covered that once, like 2 years ago too, by the way.
Totally worth doing again.
But then again, just about everything we talk about, we covered somewhere in the 280 some shows.
It's kind of hard not to at this point. So that's where I'm going to drop those whenever they come across my plate. All right, I'm going to kill the live stream. I didn't pay attention to the chat room at all today, but by the way, we should, if I'm not mistaken. This was simulcasting to both YouTube and our Facebook page.
I just saw that. I went to Facebook real quick. It was first thing in my feed was Wood Talk is now live.
Word! So, yeah, people on both platforms are able to watch now. So I'm going to kill that feed and say goodbye to those people.
Goodbye, people.